Yay, thanks for being in the podcast,
Hello.
Suzanne. I had to check exactly how to pronounce your name because I'm Lezanne, you're Suzanne. So it's like potato, potato, tomato, tomato.
Yes. You're my first Lezanne that I ever.
Okay,
It's
yes.
similar
Yeah,
spelled, but tomato.
yeah, exactly. Thanks for being here. So Suzanne and I share a residency experience, which we'll get to. So I'm so glad you're here. I look forward to our conversation. So maybe before we start, can you, or as a starting point, can you give a little bit of a background, just an intro into who you are, what you do, please?
So I'm Suzanne Baxter. I live in San Francisco, California, and I am an artist. And we'll go into how long it
Hey.
took me to say that out loud later. But I like saying it now. So I'm an artist, and I do murals and paintings and drawings, and I am very somehow I've become a muralist, and I'm also an art director.
Mm-hmm.
I am living a creative lifestyle right now, which I'm very, very, very grateful for because I haven't
Mm-hmm.
been in that world.
Mm-hmm. Amazing, amazing. And so that actually brings me to my next question, which I ask on the podcast often. When did you start seeing yourself as a creative? And I know for you it's a loaded loaded
Yeah.
question, but yeah, let's start there.
No, I feel like I've come a long way on that journey in not very much time. So I have degrees in finance and economics. And I realized when I got those that I was not going to be happy doing that. So I became a project manager at an ad agency. And the creative people were having so much fun. And I was doodling like crazy in every meeting. I've always been an artistic type or creative type. And I was doodling. So I actually have collected all the doodles from my years of corporate America, and they're in a notebook. And one of my coworkers finally said to me, in like 2008, he said, you should go to art school. Like, don't continue this project management. And so he is now my husband. He has given such good advice. So I did go to art school. I quit in 2008. I went to art school. And then when I graduated 3 years later, 2.5 years later, with a bachelor's of graphic design, I got to play with the creatives. And now I feel like I am where I
Mm,
belong. Um, I've worked at several brands in San Francisco and as graphic designer, and I was working on a photo studio set for a while. The models all stand on these sweeps of white paper.
mm,
We would go home at the end of the day, and I didn't want to go home, and I would just draw on those sheets of paper with paint. And um, so I kind of got addicted to painting on these sweeps. And one day a woman asked if she could do a show of my sweep paintings, and she proceeded to hang them all. They were probably like 15 feet long, and she hung them
mm,
up on the ceiling of a warehouse. And that's when I realized, oh, and they were professionally
mm.
lit. It looked so cool. And I was like, oh, maybe I could maybe do this for a living and not corporate America so much. That is how I kind of transitioned from computer side to canvas side or something like that. So yeah, and then finally, during COVID, I quit my job, and I do murals, and I probably in 2021 or 2022, I got comfortable saying I'm an artist. So now I love saying it. It just
Mm.
think it's unique, and people want to talk about that, you know, and I like talking about it now.
Wow, thank you. I feel like, yeah, you've condensed it, and there's so much that actually happened along the way. It's nice to hear you say that you're an artist with so much confidence, and it's just that you don't have to explain it. It's just that's what you do now.
And to
Um,
be at my age and find something that brings so much joy for me and get rewarded for it. I'm so grateful. Like to find the flow state, as fellow artists know, I don't even know if you have to be an artist to find the flow state, but find joy doing so much that you forget about everything else. I'm so grateful that I get to do that regularly and get rewarded for it. I can make it.
That's amazing. And I can attest to you, just watching you work during the residency, you get into that zone. And yeah, we'll talk about that. So, and it's also interesting in your story how there were these pivotal moments where in some way you either received some validation or someone acknowledged what you do, and then that moment with the works actually hanging up, and being lit in a nice way. And I think it's interesting in all of our stories where there's these pivotal moments that are like clues that help us actually find our way,
It's
in
so
terms of,
dependent
yeah.
on your community and the people
Mm-hmm.
supporting. It hasn't been all women necessarily for me, but so many women have just
Mm-hmm.
believed in me more than I believed in myself in the beginning. One woman put on a show of my small little doodles that I was just putting on Instagram in her store.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
Mm-hmm.
shocked that she wanted to do that. And, having the pieces hung from the warehouse ceiling, just these women have supported me in ways that I didn't support myself in the beginning and have convinced me I can do this. And I made these screen prints of these brass knuckles. It's like
Mm-hmm.
each one of these cards saying, it's like peaceful, we're strong, we can do this kind of thing, or like peaceful protesting now. And I just wanted them all to know how grateful I am for their support, because without these women, there's probably 5 or 8 of them that I'm here because of their support. And having
Mm-hmm.
lived in San Francisco for so long, my community feels very supportive and strong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Amazing. And how that sort of external feedback and input then shapes the internal narrative of how you see yourself.
For sure.
Um
It's
and
silly.
how you see your work. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's silly how hard we are on ourselves. And I still do it, of course, but it helps break that down a little bit when people are constantly supportive.
So on the topic of community, we can segue to maybe talking about the residency. So Suzanne and I we've really just come back from this residency in Finland, called Artelis Creative Center. And so I'm curious as to why you decided to go on a residency in the first place.
Well, it actually, I was having drinks with my college roommate, and we both had birthdays coming up that we wanted to celebrate. And we also didn't want to, we were worried we were losing our edge. So we each gave each other challenges, and she challenged me. Well, I told her what I wanted to do, and she's like, okay, you have to do that in the next 3 months. And one was a residency somewhere cool, somewhere that felt different from where I live, somewhere that would really put me out of my comfort zone. And so I applied to 4 or 5, and I got Finland, which shocked me, and I was so excited. So I just got back from Finland, right? So it does feel amazing. That's how I ended up doing it.
And was this your first residency? I don't actually know.
I did one in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. That
Okay.
was more of a loose residency where I was the only person there, um,
Mm.
and at
Mhm.
a motel hot springs soaking. Right.
Okay, yes. All
Yeah.
the stories. Yes, I remember now.
And that was very different because it was solo, and they just gave me free reign to do whatever I wanted in the motel space. And so very different in terms of community. Definitely
Sure.
community there, but just different.
Okay. And so going into this residency, what was your expectation?
It's funny because people have asked me since I've been back, was it what you expected? And I think I went in with zero expectations.
Mm. Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't know I knew how many people, but I had no idea where they'd be from. I didn't know the ages. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know any sort of routine. I didn't know. I really went in knowing nothing. So I loved everything in the end. So I think that kind of helped going in totally open-minded, or maybe less a little bit, but excited. I had like 3 months to think about it. And, it kind of towards as it was approaching, I was like, I just want to get there already. So
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't know what to expect. Did you know what to? I guess you've done a more like group.
Well, yeah, I think I had an idea, but I also went into it with a very open mindset. I didn't have a set idea, and I basically planned in terms of the kind of materials that I wanted to take with, knowing that often on a residency there's new things that develop and happen, and I think the joy is in being able to be open to whatever arises, both in terms of the people and the environment. I think that's what you get out of a residency, is that sort of new experience. And like you being able to go to a completely different country, new culture, just a world so different from your current life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think having that open attitude is probably the best way to approach it.
I love my current life, but I also like stepping out of it for a little while and seeing what else is out there. And that was what it was. And New Mexico was too.
Was there any bit of the residency that you found challenging?
Somebody else has asked me that, and no, I don't think so, because I mean, I guess I was challenged when everyone showed their work the first time. I think I came to you and I was like, oh God, I just didn't feel up to par, but that was silly. I came back around. I think it was when a few people showed their work that was so like really moved me. And
Mm-hmm.
I started to question my own work, like, is it gonna move people? But that was the wrong attitude, as we talked about. Like, I want art to move me, so why was it upsetting me that certain people's art was so
Mm-hmm.
good and moving me so much? That should not upset me. That should excite me. So I came
Mm-hmm.
around on that. That was the only slightly challenging part, but
Mm-hmm.
4 weeks without any distractions and just
Mm-hmm.
giant floor where I could just doodle and paint and draw. And you had all these mediums I didn't know about. So, or everybody did, and it was the most chill 4 weeks of my life.
Yeah, I think let's talk about that though, because in some way, even though the residency is we're separated from our usual lives, and in some way it's very euphoric. You're on this different plane, different universe in some way. And on another level, what we experience in real life, we often also experience, I think, at a residency. And one of those are, comparing ourselves. I think that's just such a natural part of being a creative. And because I think we're all aspiring to develop ourselves and for our work to resonate. And so often when you're in the beginning phases of a work or a process, you're still in that space of figuring it out, perhaps finding your voice or working with a new medium, whatever. I think especially when you're in that stage, you're open to that sense of comparison. And some of that I think can be helpful, getting ideas from others and, like you say, inspiration. But then it can also actually lead to feeling blocked or, being a barrier. So how do you see that?
I mean, I think you can be very sensitive at that time, especially when we were in Finland. I was just trying to let all barriers down. Um, or like my goal when I applied, I guess I should have said what that was. When I applied, my goal was to relinquish control. My work is very geometric, and I wouldn't say rigid, but I'm in control, right? And so is my in control of my life here too. So I mean, I would say I would say I was type A, but now that I'm back from Finland, I'm like A minus, maybe.
That's
A good
awesome.
thing. But I wanted to relinquish control. Doing that really opens you up a little to, you're a little more sensitive, right? So,
Absolutely.
and I wanted to be
Mm.
more. There were some people in our group that were so sensitive, and they wore their emotions on or their heart on their sleeve, and I envied them. I was like, oh, I want to be open to those feelings. So yeah, you're just more vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what you're describing there is, on the one hand, exploring something else in your work as well as in yourself, and
Mhm.
that is extremely brave and vulnerable, like you
Yeah,
say.
and I think
Um,
that's what people should realize about residencies. At least for me, it wasn't just about the art. It still reflect in my art, but it was very much about seeing how other people live and think and experience life.
Mhm.
So it was like an inner evolution as well as.
Yeah. And so now you're back home, you've traveled a bit, and you're basically back into, I want to say, the swing of things. So what has stayed with you from the residency?
I think what has stayed with me is just I learned from everybody like how to slow down. Like, I meditated every, 30 minutes twice a day, most days. Um, and while I haven't brought that exactly back, I'm trying to keep the meditation practice alive. And I'm cooking now, by the way.
Yay!
I mean, I cooked before COVID. It's not like I've never cooked, but I really stopped after COVID because I just didn't need to. So, I'm cooking. It's a slower pace. I am like being more considerate of things.
And what do you think will be the impact of that on your business?
Well, I think it will affect my art. To be honest, I haven't spent much time back in my studio yet. I mean, it took me a few days to even unravel the work from, I had it in a tube residency because when you're in an environment, you love some work. And then when you get home, or like you buy a shirt when you're traveling and then you come home and you're like, ugh, never, I will never wear this. So I was worried or hesitant to open my work. And then I did, and I had nothing to worry about. I'm very excited about it. I have an open studios this
I
weekend.
saw, yes.
So I'm
Nice.
gonna start hanging that today. So I had a big roll of paper and I started on one end, and the work on that end I feel is very controlled. Just with the fine blacking, pen. And then at the end, I feel like I did relinquish control and let nature take its course, or let things happen spontaneously in the art. So I'm going to have that whole roll. It's like 15 feet long up on the wall.
Oh, I wish I could be there.
No, I wish you guys could be there.
So, if you think back on your corporate life, is there anything that you've learned in your corporate life that actually influences the way that you work now? Something that you're grateful for learning when you still worked in corporate?
Well, for sure. I mean, I'm a math person at heart, to be honest. And all the organization, the corporate, of being a project manager, of managing budgets, all that kind of stuff. Well, I find that
Hmm.
some of the artists hate that. I kind of love it.
That's such a strange.
I know. So like I kind of
Oh.
love writing a contract. I also make it look pretty. The contract looks pretty, but it also has everything in it. It's very organized. And then when people try to get the work to start and the contract isn't signed, I'm very much like, this is the how it works. So I like having that part of me. So it's kind of like
Mhm.
my brain, the left side and the right side mesh as well. I'm not typing the right brain. I think I'm the middle with that math organization. And I really do enjoy keeping track of all that. But I remember on one of your previous podcasts with Joe,
Yes.
yes, you can just spend all day on a spreadsheet when she can. Because that's like easy. Has the answer. I could do that and I would be happy to do that because sometimes I tend to go into the studio. Um, a little bit afraid of, I don't know, it in or not, and just spend all day in my computer.
Yeah, I kind of get lost there, and it's so familiar, and you know what to do, and
Mhm.
it works. It kind
Yeah,
of works.
yes, there's an answer or not, you know. Um, so yeah, making that only be a morning activity.
Mm.
And I'm very
Mhm.
fortunate in my studio, I can walk to it. So I'm like, you have to leave the house
Mm.
at time. And sometimes I bring my computer, sometimes I don't.
Mhm. And do you find that you need to be in a different headspace to, do the spreadsheets versus doing the creative work? Is there a sort of a switch that takes place?
For me, I could always do the spreadsheets. But if I'm in that headspace to create, then I do it no matter what time of day. And like, I feel like you have to take advantage of that time. It doesn't turn on automatically for me like other stuff. So I'm getting better at making space and time just for those in case I'm in
Mm.
that mood. Also, you can work on getting yourself there. You know, okay, maybe I don't feel like it, but I need to go into the studio and I need to just start making something. Sometimes it's hard to just like exercise, right? You're like, I know I'm gonna go for a run. Do you have that?
Yeah, I relate to that for sure. Yeah, as you're talking, I'm wondering, okay, what is it for me? I think for me, often it is also just even just tidying up my space or just actually physically going into the studio or starting with a sketchbook and just making a few marks. And then it's so interesting how quickly the flow develops from there. But often the hardest bit is because I can also get lost in my computer and then, detaching myself from that and actually doing the creative work. Yeah, so that's interesting. So yeah, what are those things for you? Like, what are your go-to practices to almost get you into that state of flow?
Well, I do want to say one thing before, because you know, in Finland we didn't have internet or phones. So I learned there was nothing to go to. Great, so great. In that instance, I often went to books. Read 10 books in 4 weeks because I'm also an afternoon person. As far as I believe that 2 o'clock p.m. is my magic hour. After two, my brain is different than it was at 10 a.m. In a better, in a more creative way. Um, so I would read in Finland. I would read for 2 or 3 hours straight, and I never do that here because I just had to interact with the phone, the computer. So I liked immersing myself in a book, and then I would eat lunch, and then I would draw. And all I just have to start doing anything like any a pen, a paintbrush. I've really got into watercolor in Finland, and that's so easy to just. It's not a lot of setup.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
admire oil painters because
Yeah.
talk about patience and slowing down. I'm not there yet, but very admirable.
Yeah, and I also find it interesting how you talk about being conscious of your energy levels throughout the day and how that shifts for you. What works kind of best in the morning, what works best in the afternoon, evening. I think it's so important being conscious of that. Uh,
Very few
Especially,
people are afternoon people, though. At least in my world lately, everyone's like, "Oh, I'm such a morning person," and then in the afternoon, I'm dead. I'm like,
mm,
"Oh, I wish there were more of us that were just like afternoon people."
uh, you can put that on a shirt. Um,
But I also lately can't sleep well. The jet lag had me waking up every morning at 3:30, and I kind of loved it. There was nobody out at 4:30.
mm, mm.
So I don't know. I don't have all the hours, but I'm most energetic from like 2 to 5.
Mm. And do you structure your work around that? So the murals that you do, do you actually plan around that?
Actually, no. Murals come just second nature to me, so I can do those
Mm.
day. Those are
Okay.
very innate and just the flow. I know exactly what I'm doing. I love it, and I know I have my playlist. I probably should update, but I have the same playlist, and
Get you in the zone.
yeah, totally. I get in the zone and I do it. So the murals don't matter as much. It's the creativity of like creating something new. That is going to happen not before two, most likely. And I do think, and I'd be very curious. I'm sure there have been studies. My brain at night versus my brain in the morning, very different brain. I think. Like I make decisions at night, and then the next morning I'm like, what? I don't know. They're a
Mm.
little weirder to me, which I like. I'm always trying to fight this conditioned box I feel like I grew up in and was in for a long time. But I feel like I can get out of that conditioned box more at night, in the morning. I don't know
Mm.
if that resonates with anyone out there, but yeah, like even my texts at night, my emails at night, you're like, I read them again. I'm like, oh. So like if we did
Wow.
this again tonight,
Yeah.
it'd be different.
Because, yeah, I'm thinking like I'm getting the morning version of
Yeah.
Suzanne.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what it would be like tonight. Anyway.
Were you surprised by any part of yourself in the residency?
Um, I was uh, I was surprised by how, what's the right word? Not lazy, but I was not not you guys. I felt like I took a lot of shortcuts. I take a lot of shortcuts, mostly in terms of meal prep, to be honest. I mean, my lunch was a piece of cheese and peanut butter on bread, and everyone else would come in and make these beautiful lunches or breakfast even. A fellow resident talked about rituals she did every day.
Yes.
And I really, really admired her for that. And I mean, I have my morning pages that I do every day, and I love them. So I have that ritual, but I feel like I could add a little bit more that would help me slow down. Um,
Yeah,
so,
because I think an image of you that's stayed with me is in the morning when I go out with my cup of coffee, perhaps, you would be sitting there writing. And so what did that practice offer you?
um,
What does that practice
I
offer
mean,
you?
I
Is
do
it
it every day
something
here.
you,
I did
yeah.
it every day
Mm,
there. There, I did
mm,
it outside, which Finland is all about the outdoors in August. So
mm,
that added a new element to it. And the air and the phone I did not have sitting next to me on the table. Um,
mhm,
those entries I feel like are much more emotional and longer. They're like, typically I do 3 pages, but I was doing 6, 7, 8 pages. Um,
mm,
and not that we had a lot going on, it's just that my brain was going to different new places. Just because meeting new people, being outdoors, um, yeah.
mm,
So those more
mm,
mean a lot to me. And I feel I even do them when I have a work day here, before I go in to work. I find a cafe and go there and do them because
mm,
or if I can't get to a cafe, I'll kind of hide in the back of the photo studio and do a couple pages just so I can feel like I'm a better person if I show up having thought about
mm.
how I feel.
What I'm hearing from what you're saying is I think there's a golden thread of, and correct me if that isn't the case, but it feels like there was an element of rest for you in the residency. Is that,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm,
And I think it's a tumultuous time in the world. And so not having that subconsciously wearing on you.
mhm,
I also think at this age, becoming an artist, as I say, I've come from a very predictable, not conservative in terms of a political, but like a predictable life. Or
mhm,
no, I'm not really explaining it right, but like there are I've kind of changed my priorities. How about that? I've definitely changed my priorities once I've become an artist. Late in life, I've really feel like I've changed as a person. So my previous life has built this certain community, and now I'm really building a new community. So
mhm,
there's a stress in that, like trying to balance both communities and priorities. So people expect one thing from me, but I don't have those same priorities. Does that make sense?
yeah.
So there is a little stress there that I didn't never once entered Finland because
Mm,
you're there for the first time. They don't know anything else about you.
mhm,
Hopefully that makes sense. But it just was like you could be 100% yourself in a resident,
mhm,
and
mhm,
especially because we weren't required to deliver anything in the end.
mhm,
So it felt like I could be whatever I wanted to be and do whatever I wanted to do 24/7 and be
yeah.
inspired by all of you all doing the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and almost as, giving each other permission to rest. It felt like there wasn't an expectation. We didn't put pressure on each other. I think that expectation or that message was given also right at the start that everyone has a different focus when it comes to how they're using their time. And, you use the word priority, like what is a priority for you during the residency? And you describe the way that other people made lunch or breakfast, and you refer to yourself as being lazy. But I think there's an element of just deciding, okay, where do I actually want to spend my energy? What's important to me right now? I think that's wonderful, being able to offer yourself that that grace to be able to actually make those kind of decisions, which is not always the case in, I want to say, real life. Although maybe it is. Maybe we can actually, and you talk about slowing down and how that's something that you're bringing back from the residency. I think rest is one of the topics that often come up in the podcast, as a practice that's really important, for creatives. How do you see rest, in your day-to-day life?
Well, we talked about naps. In Finland, I do like literally rest. I also, I'm very good at sleeping, and I've learned not everybody is good at sleeping, so I'm grateful for that. Um, so rest in terms of literal sleep is not a problem here. But um, also, like I said before, if you're not feeling it, I'm not going to force it, because now
Mm,
I do some art direction part of the month, and then I do my art the other part of the month.
mm,
So it is compartmentalized a little bit. So, but I have
mm,
learned that if those 2 weeks are for my art, if I'm not, I can't force it. I have to. If
mm,
it's not coming, don't freak out. Just relax,
mhm.
go for a walk, go to the beach, read a book. It's okay, because I'm coming from such a productive world for so long. The word productive, ugh, is, I think, a bad word for me at the moment. Just because I'm sitting on my back stoop looking out at the yard does not mean it's unproductive time. But in San Francisco, you know, everyone's got different thoughts about that.
That's so interesting. Yeah, like reframing the way we see that word. And I think that's very necessary for creatives,
Yeah.
because you're right, we actually need time to dream, to think, to rest, and all of that then in the end leads to some sort of external output.
I mean, it sounds kind of ridiculous to some people, at least here, if you're not in the art world, to say, I need to go to the beach. I need to just sit in the quiet. And feel like, yeah, 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 that aren't artists. And I honestly, I have it's a nice community of artists, but it's small. And my social circle is a lot of non-artists. So that's not something I feel comfortable saying to them.
You've mentioned at this age you've been able to change your career and make decisions that align better with who you are as a person, and in some way give yourself permission to do certain things. Do you think that that has to do with the fact that you've experienced certain things in life, you've been able to get to know yourself better? Do you think that that links to the age component?
Percent. Yeah, I know. I mean, I wish as a muralist that my body was like 22, because it is a very physical thing. But I know my brain couldn't have done that, and I wouldn't have the resources I have. This is this is the right place for me at this age. And I would not be able to do that. I don't think if I had tried to call myself an artist 20 years ago, it just would have been a totally different thing. Uh,
Hmm.
So age has really brought me experience to be better able to grow this new career, for sure.
Yeah. Wow. And so what would you say to someone who is still, living the similar life to what you had before, but are noticing this pull towards something else, but it perhaps feels a bit daunting or uh, impossible, perhaps? What kind of advice would you offer?
I would say, and this is how I kind of started, just stop caring what everybody thinks and just throw your work out there, share it however you want. Like, I just started sharing my doodles while I watched TV on Instagram. That's how this all started. And I didn't care. I just ignored what everyone thought and I just put it up there. So stop caring what people think and just put it out there. It's not the end of the world. Maybe it's only up there for 24 hours, depending how you post it, get it out there and make something every single day. Even if you just
Mm.
are, sticking some toothpicks in an olive and you're like, it's an ant, or, like just be creative or make something every day. And then I think it'll grow if you really are
Mm.
interested and people that have these projects like draw for 100 days, that always comes, I mean, it seems like they always grow something out of those things.
Mm. Absolutely.
Make
Mhm.
something every day. If it's
Mm.
a song or a tune, anything. It doesn't have to be a physical thing either. Just like consciously be aware of it every day. I mean, I'd say go back to school, do all this. I don't think that's legit for everyone. So I just say stop caring what people think and make something
Mhm.
and maybe share what you make every day.
That is such lovely advice. I will write some of this and put it on my own wall. Make something every day.
Something every day.
That's
And what's cool
fantastic
is
advice.
I love seeing, like, I have doodles from 8th grade. Like I think I kind of started in 7th, 8th grade doodling in my notebooks.
Mm.
And I pulled
Mm.
all those out of my old notebooks and put them in this binder.
Mm. Yes.
Really cool. And maybe start doing that however old you are. It's really cool to see where you started and in the phases you've been through. Because I look back
Mm.
at some of the doodles I did at my first corporate job and I'm like, these are kind of awesome. It's over like an
Mm.
agenda item or whatever, but I'm like, oh, screw the type on this page. Like, look at what I drew.
Mm.
And I can go back to that. And just like,
Mm.
I believe also in keeping kind of a record or just like keeping ready.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing you do, both in terms of your notebooks, your journals, as well as your sketchbooks and these little doodles. That's really, really interesting. This being able to reflect back on something you did in the past and perhaps incorporate it into what you're doing now.
Right, because I did do that in Finland. I brought a ton of doodles from when I'm on set. I'm always doodling on set too, and I brought years worth of doodles to Finland and watercolored over them and made them into kind of a collage. So I repurposed them, I guess.
Mm. And I
Um,
guess that could also be a great way of if you're feeling stuck in some way, engage with work that you've done in the past and that could be a good starting point to just
Totally.
get you started. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
nothing is too precious. Like, because I was like, oh, should I watercolor on these doodles? Are you kidding me? I would have thrown those away. Like, it's like nothing is too precious at all. I also would add to that advice. And don't be a perfectionist. Just
I've just loved talking to you, and as we're talking, I've just got these images of your work,
ah,
and you in your space working as well, often on the floor. It
mm,
feels like you use your body quite a bit as well when
mhm.
it comes to creating your work, whether that's a small A4 or doing a mural, which is also quite interesting.
I
Um,
loved because in the room in Finland, the sun would come in and I was on the floor. Everything was on the floor. I had a big wooden floor and I would just move to get out of the sun. So in the beginning of the day, I started in the up right-hand corner of the room. And by the end of the day, I'd moved over to the far left corner to get out, staying out of the sun, but keeping the sun on my artwork. So it was kind of, I never would have spent that much time or had that much space.
yeah, it's such a beautiful
Yeah,
space.
it was
Yeah, yeah.
in the sun and the
Mm,
work with
mm,
nature that way, I thought was very interesting. And I
mm.
ended up tracing some of the sunbeams on my paper.
I remember, so beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, I always, you talk about being inspired by other people's work, but I was very inspired by your work and
Yeah.
loved coming into your space and just seeing it really feels like you will turn anything into something beautiful. Doesn't matter what kind of medium you're using, whether it's thread or whether it's watercolor, it ended up being something incredibly beautiful. And yeah, I'm so grateful that we met, and I'm
No,
really looking forward.
Jason. We met before. Yeah. You're like,
Yeah.
are you going?
Yeah, yeah. So I can quickly tell that story. So on the train station on the way from Helsinki to Tampere, Stuart, my husband, we were both together, and he pointed out that there's someone on the there with also what do you call it?
Oh, a paper tube. a two
And he's like, this must be someone also going to the residency. And he's like, go say hi.
Oh, or did he say hi first?
No, he encouraged me to just
Okay,
walk
yeah.
up to you and say hi.
Well, and
So,
then I saw Emily
yeah.
on the train. She had a tube, and she came up to me
Oh,
and said, "Are you
yes.
going to Artelos?" I said, "I hope so, because I don't know where this train is really going, but we'll both be there together." There's no English at the train station, and you really can't translate that. It was, yeah.
No, no. And then Enrique and I ended up sitting right next to each other, not saying a word. But I also saw his rolls of paper, and I thought he must be going there as well. So yeah, we were all there. And maybe just the last question: what's next for you?
I want to do another residency, but I don't want to do it anytime soon. And, maybe in
Mhm,
a year or two. I think I have a lot to process from that month. I think it'd be silly
mhm,
to just go right to another one personally. Obviously, people do that. I need and want time to process it here.
mhm.
Already, I'm
Yeah.
back a week, and I don't think I really tapped it yet.
Mhm,
So I think I just have to sit with it for a while and then process it, or whatever the right word is. But I do
mhm,
want to do another residency
mhm.
with a group, maybe in Greece.
Ah,
Yeah,
sounds amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's worth sitting with it and distilling it and integrating it in some way. It's such a rich experience and unique, um and also your own, as in, you went through that experience. So I think it's worth doing that. So
Well, I want to thank you for documenting so much of it with your camera, your drawing. Like, oh, it's awesome. That I'm like, it's when you don't have your phone and the camera on your phone. I just found that I didn't
Mhm.
document as much, and I really appreciate you guys with the real cameras doing that.
It
Yeah.
was fun. I enjoyed the shift from not having my phone with me, but actually using my camera. I really enjoyed that. It was quite interesting. So,
And your video
um,
for sure to your movie.
thank you. I had a lot of fun. Yeah,
Mm.
I'm glad I could capture some of the experience at least.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's hard to explain to people, really.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We can just offer these little glimpses.
Yes, and highly
Yeah,
recommend.
and hopefully it will translate into the rest of our work, which we can share, and yeah, who we are as people. So thanks, Suzanne. I appreciate you being
Fun.
here today. Thank you so
Um,
much. And
I wish you were just like around the corner.
I know, like a neighbor. Thank you so much. And yeah, look forward to more conversations once you've distilled and had a little bit of time to actually process.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Bye.